Okay, so this is being recorded now. So yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, like I said, when it comes to the application itself, this is going to be the actual phone portion of it. So this will be everything from the voicemail side for anything that does come through, to managing when you don't want any more calls coming in, things like that. This also has a very intuitive way of managing multiple calls when they come in as well. So it's something to keep in mind when it comes to that. So when people do log in, they do have this screen that comes up as a dial pad option. There are a few icons along the top and the bottom. I'm going to go along the top first from left to right, except for this dial pad option, and then I'll go through these down below here as well after that, and go from there. So starting with this envelope icon that's right here, this will be any messages that come through to the system here. So you'll notice that I have a few different types of messages that come through to me. I have voicemails, I have faxes, and I have text messages. Majority of the time for you guys, it's just going to be actual voicemails. The actual faxes are going to remain analog, so don't worry about that part of it. But if you do have any actual voicemails that come through, they will come through as a little tape icon, and you can listen to them through the computer as well if you have the headset connected. So that's a nice convenient way of doing it. And then as the voicemail is playing, you will have some functions along the bottom to call the person back, to flag it as, mark it as read or unread, as well as be able to delete it from there as well. Any unread voicemails you do get, you will get a little badge icon similar to this right here on this side. So that way you will be able to tell what's an unread message versus what has already been gone through. Any unread voice messages will be coming up in a green sort of font on this white background here versus a red message, which will be more of a traditional black text for doing that. So either way, there's ways that you can see what sort of voicemail has come through, what the caller ID is, how long the voicemail is, all that kind of stuff there.
So do we have a function set where there's voicemails allowed after hours, or is there no voicemails allowed?
So there will be. So the way that it'll work is, the functions of that will be more for the after hours that I can set it up for. So what after say 8 o'clock at night, it'll automatically go to that if somebody presses 0 to go to reception kind of thing.
Okay. And then is there also a function like when you're reading, when you listen to a voicemail, are you able to forward that voicemail to someone else within the system?
So that part of it, you can choose to, I believe there's an option to download the voicemail so you can attach it and forward it to somebody else if you need to. I don't have an example here to show you for that, but there are ways that you can forward it. So it is a function within the system. I just haven't gone through that as much to find out all the functions, but I can certainly clarify that for you.
Okay.
I know when I was fiddling around with my TELUS Business Connect, I set up my voicemail and I called myself to test it out, and it actually emailed me like an audio file of the voicemail that I left for myself. So it'll go to your email inbox, and then you can probably forward it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, my biggest concern is who's going to be all part of that reception group, because it sounds like to me it's a lot of rotating staff. Am I correct in there?
Yeah. There's a handful of people, yeah. And so the other thing too is if we're forwarding confidential information like people's names and phone numbers and a health concern, are we then able to email it to a health provider? And so I think we need to clarify that too.
Okay, sounds good. Because I'd set it to a generic group email that's maybe reception@clinic.mb.ca or something like that. If we were to go that route, it's just a matter of they'll just have to figure out what has been forwarded, what hasn't been forwarded, what's been taken care of, and stuff like that. Because the voicemail is going to show up in two places. One's going to be the email inbox for that reception email, as well as here. So it might be a lot more involved if we were to do it that way. So it's just a matter of maybe fine tuning how you want that to look going forward.
Right. just to bring up a concern that may, like, we use email for no and like zero client information. So I feel like if the management doesn't know that that happens already, they're probably going to take pretty big issue with that, and we might even have to like immobilize the email function.
Well, the email though is a voicemail.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
So
I'm just concerned that that'll come up
Yeah.
later. So maybe just take note of that, because we don't use email for anything client
Yeah.
related. And I feel like
that's why I'm
hear that and be like, what? Yeah.
that's why I'm asking for
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which sucks. But
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's totally fair.
Mhm.
So just let me know how you want that to look going forward, and I can certainly so that way what that does is it'll just be something that's kind of more automated, and we can look at it that way.
So if it's a voicemail at the, going through the reception line,
Mhm.
will it just go straight into an email into a reception email, or are you saying
You can choose where that
log
goes.
in?
So you guys can choose where that goes. So you can add a single
Okay.
address, or you can do multiple email addresses.
Okay.
In the body of the email, it'll say, "Dear Clinic Reception, you have received a voicemail from 204 da 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 da," and then it'll attach that voicemail file with that audio clip.
Okay. So if we do keep it, we're going to have to set that. We're going to have to figure that out too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Does that answer the question regarding the voicemail side of things?
Yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. The star icon here, this is for favorite contacts. So this is any personal contacts that are favorited, whether it's an internal extension or it's external contacts that you deal with, whether it's different clinics, different divisions, whether it's shared health, anything like that. You can add those guys here. There's a little icon up on here where you can add that and add it as a favorite so you have it listed. And then when you hover over their information, you have an option to either call, text, or fax, depending on the number that you put in there. Majority of the time, you just hit call, and what it'll do is it'll automatically suggest if there's multiple numbers, which number you want to use. And then when you click on it, what it'll do is it'll automatically call that person.
Mhm.
This calendar piece, don't worry about this. This is just integrating with an Outlook calendar. This is more for if you're joining any sort of Business Connect conferences or meetings or anything like that. So don't worry about this on the reception side. This history tab here, this is for the actual call log for this extension. So this can filter out any all calls that have come through in and out of this out of the extension. You can also filter it by any missed calls that would have come through as well. In terms of that, if any calls were manually recorded during the process, you do have a recordings tab that you can look at. Majority of the time, you probably won't be doing that, so don't worry about that part of it too much. But you have your all call logs here for any inbound and outbound calls, and then you have your missed call log there.
So does the missed call log also keep track of the ones, like if the phones are ringing and ringing and ringing and people are on hold and they hang up? Is that a miss?
So that would be considered a missed call at that point. Also, ones that have, if you've set your line to not receive any more calls, it will show up as a missed log that way as well.
Okay.
Okay. You can also set email notifications for those missed calls too, saying, "Dear reception, you've missed a call from this number," and things like that. So you can have an extra place for redundancy purposes if you wanted to go that route as well. Any questions about the rest of that call log?
I don't have any.
No.
Pretty straightforward so far?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. This little icon here is your contacts here. So this is for everyone that's going to be within the organization of Clinic. And so this is everybody from the medical office to social workers to the crisis room to everybody that's going to be a part of the system will be listed here. So you'll see here that in our case, in my case, I deal with different store locations for our ClearWest Solutions telestores. So we have different locations in Abbotsford, BC. We have our boardroom extensions and all that kind of stuff. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a couple of icons here. You'll see this short number here. That's their extension that you can dial them at to get there. And then this star icon will be added to your favorites. So you have it that way.
You just cut out.
Nope, sorry. So like I said, so this number here, that's going to be the internal extension number for the person. And this star icon is an option to hit add to favorites.
Awesome.
You can also have the option to search particular contacts too. So say if I needed to look for a Jason within my company, I can search the first name and then I'll have two options here. Both will have different extension numbers. And then if I need to look at more detailed information, I can just click on their name here and it'll actually show me the information here based on what office they're at, what their extension is, what their direct number is, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also filter out by any personal contacts you would have added as well. So you have a little funnel icon up here, which can choose between what company you're looking at, or if you want to look at personal contacts. So if I uncheck that, it'll only show me any contacts that I have personally added to the system. And then if I do company, then it'll show me everybody internally to the company. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, perfect. And then on this part of it is the heads up display. So this is in the receptionist size, this can basically see everybody at a glance. So in my case, I can see a good chunk of the staff that a good chunk of the people that I deal with on a regular basis. And so if I'm actually out on the road and I need to check and see if someone's available so I can call them, this status will be in real time. So you'll notice that everybody is available to receive calls at the moment, but if someone happens to say dial out to a particular number or anything like that, it'll say on call with such and such number. Or it'll say incoming call from whatever, that side of things there. And then again, when you hover over them, you have the options of either calling them or texting them, but it'll just show your internal extension number versus like say a full 10-digit number or anything like that. Any questions about that?
No.
Quick question. Can you see who everybody's on a call with at the time? Like anyone?
Yeah, so how you can do that,
Interesting.
you can actually undock this window so that we expand it or even go full screen.
Okay.
And then it'll list almost everybody here. You can scroll through depending on how many people you can fit on your screen and do it that way.
Internally though, right? Like if I was talking to somebody
mainly internal people.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
If you do need to add or remove people, there is an edit option down here where I can choose to have people added and removed. And then if I hit save, it'll automatically update to that new list here.
Oh, cool.
So if I need to add anybody, I have this icon up here where I can add anybody that I haven't added as of yet. So if I needed to add, say, someone like Kevin or the reception here, I can do that, but I normally don't talk to them. So I only just focus on the people that I mainly talk with on a daily basis. But for the receptionist, we can add everybody to it, so that way everybody's covered.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've already seen this already. This is your main dial pad screen. This will also be your active call screen when you actually currently have calls working on that. Charlene, can you try calling my extension again? My 587-318 number. I'll show you what happens when a call comes in.
Yeah, just a moment here. I'll dial right now.
Okay, so when a call comes up, there's going to be an alert that pops up on their screen window. So it doesn't matter what's going on there. They have this. So when they're good, they can hit answer. Come on. There we go. So now when they're on that call, here's the screen that they will get when it comes to the calls here. So this is everything from how to place the call on hold, how to transfer it to somebody, all of that kind of stuff. So this will be more of what you're looking at in terms of the functions that they're going to see when calls come through. So the first thing you're going to notice is the caller ID of it, which will just mainly be the phone number. But in some cases, if it's a landline, it may show up with the name of it as well. So it's kind of a hit and miss there. But for the most part, you will see the caller ID come in and you'll be able to answer the call accordingly and go from there. To hold the call.
And I have.
Go ahead.
Jazz?
Yeah, I just want to know how the transfer is going to work. For example, this person wants to talk with somebody else.
Okay.
So we can hit transfer.
Yeah. So you hit transfer here, and then you have two options for the numbers. So you can choose to either type in a full number, whether it's going to Kathy or if it's going to someone else in the organization that you know. Like I say, if I wanted to put it over to Jason, I can choose between the number or the name, and it'll automatically suggest based on if it's somebody in my contacts already, or if it's just a phone number that I want to transfer to. So because I want to transfer this to somebody internal,
So
I'll choose Jason here, and then down below here are your transfer options. Okay. So this warm transfer option is basically I'm talking to Jason ahead of time saying, hey, I have this person on the line for you. Do you want to talk to them right now? And then I can finish the transfer that way. This blind transfer option just automatically sends the caller straight through to them without the receptionist having to talk to them first. Or if you know busy on another call and they want to just leave a message, you can just hit send a voicemail for their extension, and their phone won't even ring. It'll just go straight to the voicemail greeting.
90 or the last 4 digits.
Sorry, say again.
I'm asking if we are transferring the call, if we don't know the person is not in our list, do we need to dial the whole number?
If they're internal to Klinic, you shouldn't have to. You should be able to just put in the last 4 digits of their extension number, and it should
4 digits.
adjust.
Okay.
So even if I don't know the name of the person, but I know the extension number, so that's 6512, it'll automatically suggest who's at that extension for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And do you know with the warm transfer and you're talking to the person you're transferring to, so let's say I'm going to transfer to Jason. I say, hey, this person's on the line. Can you talk to them? Does that person hear the conversation I'm having?
No. So during the whole time, you hear hold music.
Okay. All right. Because I'm thinking of the 911 system and they hear the conversation usually.
Yeah, no. With this one, it's a little bit more professionally laid out where it's just on hold music. You're talking to the other person on the other. You're talking to the internal transfer on that side of things. You're ready to hit transfer again to move that 911 caller over through to the appropriate point.
Right.
So I have a little confusion. So when we are, for example, we are transferring the call, then we need to hit the 4 digits over there. And if we are clicking on warm transfer, so you need to talk with the person. But the person who wants to talk with them, they can't hear you.
So let's say you transfer to
so here's the prime example. Okay, so Charlene called me. She wants to talk to Jason. Okay, so I hit the transfer option. I type in Jason's extension. When I go to hit transfer, Charlene is put on hold while I talk to Jason to give him the heads up that, hey, I have Charlene on the phone for you. Do you want to talk to her? Yes or no? And then if he says yes, then I hit transfer one more time, and then Charlene starts talking to Jason automatically.
Okay.
Or you can cancel, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense now?
Yes.
Okay. And then if we needed to add a third caller in there to do like a three-way conference, for instance, there is an add option right here where you can actually dial an additional number, whether that's an internal extension or another outside 10-digit number. You can add that in here. And then once they've picked up and answered, you can actually hit merge at that point, and then it becomes what's called an active conference.
Okay.
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 Part
Can you hit the record button, because I want to hear what it says, because I've heard people describe the record message.
Yeah, so what'll happen is that it'll saying this call is now being recorded. So it's an actual announcement that has to be announced out as per privacy laws within Canada.
Yeah.
In the cases in the case of the crisis room, we've actually set a greeting before they connect, saying all calls may be monitored or recorded for supervisory purposes. It's basically already giving that ahead of time in terms of that. So when it does come to that, it's just it's something you might have to preface in the main greeting for Klinic for doing that. Because what I ended up doing was I ended up just doing some dead air for the actual recording announcement, but typically an actual announcement that plays that says this call is now being recorded and the recording has stopped. That's how that usually kind of works.
Mm.
Any other questions on this side of it?
What's flip?
So call flip is when, say if you're in the middle of a conference call and you need to actually leave, but you don't want to, have to redial into the conference using your cell phone. The flip option automatically uses a handoff feature to call your cell phone and resume it on that part of it versus having to try and redial from the cell phone in that regard. Or if you're on hold with another client, that's what that flip option is.
Okay. All right.
Now you'll also notice you'll have this little back arrow up here. So say for instance, if you're managing 2 or 3 calls at once, you will have 2 tabs up here. You'll have a dial pad option where you can make a call out from your extension, and then any calls that you have on hold, you'll either have 1 or 2 listed here. One will say current call like we have right now. Another one will say on hold. And then you'll have options to either end the call or resume the call to flip it and put it back and forth that way. It's just a couple of mouse clicks to it.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding that part of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. And then any other questions about how they actually handle calls going forward?
No.
Okay, perfect. So then the next part of it is that when you're trying to manage multiple calls and you don't want any more to come in, what you can actually do is you can actually set the extension to go on what's called do not disturb. Okay. So what I did was I just clicked on this little dot up on the top left-hand corner. You'll notice that it's green in color right now, meaning that I'm available. If I don't want any other calls coming through to me because I'm either managing too many or I've stepped away for a few minutes, I can hit do not disturb. And what that does is that any calls that actually come through to my extension will immediately get a greeting announcement. It won't actually ring through to the phone.
Okay.
And then once they finish those calls and they're ready to take a couple more, they can go back into this by just clicking on the dot up on the top left. It goes back to this profile status, and then they can just click on available again, and then they're back to available taking calls again.
Does clicking on busy mean it goes to voicemail?
No.
For example, for
This is
myself,
more
like
of
if I'm
what's called an online presence indicator. It doesn't actually send the caller straight to voicemail.
okay.
The
I
only
have a quick question for myself, just because I have my own extension and I'm going to be working like in an office. So I just didn't have this information before. If I want to say I'm busy or unavailable and I just want calls to go straight to voicemail, if
do
I'm on
not
the phone.
disturb is your best bet.
Perfect. Okay. And if I have a voicemail set up, that'll be the default. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, and then I'll just touch on these other ones quickly down here, these little icons. This little bubble down here is to compose any sort of text messages within the system. Don't worry about this part of it for right now. We'll just focus on mainly doing the calls, but it is something that the system is capable of doing. Video conference, that links to the Business Connect meetings part of it. Again, don't worry about that part of it. Audio conference, this is more for if you want to start an actual conference bridge with anybody in terms of that. For receptionist, again, I'm probably not going to stress about it too much, just mainly because they might not be hosting those conferences. But if they did, this is the information that they would use to do that. For faxing, again, that's all going to be done from the machine itself, so they don't have to worry about this compose fax option. And then this little option here called GLIP, again, this is more of an instant messaging application. Don't worry about this part of it for right now. It's not something that I think you guys are going to go with for right now. But the only last part of it I'm going to go through is the settings piece here. So this settings comes up with a different window that has different things that you can look at in terms of the application itself. So I'm not going to touch on these too much, but basically this is everything from, okay, for anything startup-wise, do you want it to automatically start when you log in? Do you not want it to do that? What's the language? So on and so forth. There also is a way to access their extension settings through the web. If they just click on My Extension Settings, that just only pertains to other things in the background. But again, it might not be something that they're looking at if it's all going to be managed by your guys' team. Sound part of it here, this gets into, when calls are there, what part do you want to go through certain things? So if a headset is actually connected to the phone itself, this will change to say headset mic or anything like that. And then for the ringer, you can choose to change it up so that way if you want it to ring on the actual speakers in case someone happens to be close by there and the PC is open, they can choose to have it go through this that way, or they can choose to go through the headset as well if it's all totally on that environment. Call side, there's a couple of different tabs here. So there's a general tab. There's a heads-up display here. There's heads-up display options. You can choose to add numbers to be blocked at any time as well if you get people that are still trying to call through, things like that. For incoming calls, you do have the option of having incoming calls go to a standalone window like it just did there, or have it just go through the application, or there's other settings that can be done for that too. Outgoing, this is a calling mode. Again, a lot of these calls are going to be set up using a direct dial method. So meaning that the application will be able to make the calls out and receive the calls at the same time. So there's no need to have, say, a cell phone or a separate desk phone to make calls out at that point. Again, default area code, don't worry about this part too much. It's automatically going to default to area code 204 based in Winnipeg for you guys. So don't worry about that part of it too much. And then a lot of these are not going to be relevant for you guys at the moment, but I just wanted to show you what sort of things were in there for that. Do you have any questions about any of these settings that I've gone through?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Any other questions regarding any of the call handling or any of the other duties that the receptionist is going to set up?
The only one I had was if you're answering calls and you get stuck on a call that you need to talk with someone in depth about, and there's calls coming in, and you're not going to be able to answer them. There is a function, right, where you can...
Yeah, so when another call pops up on their screen, they have an option to hit to voicemail or ignore. So it cannot just it can automatically just make the alert disappear and then and put the appropriate action there. So if they say to voicemail, they're automatically going to get the voicemail notification, or to the announcement greeting, whatever we decide to do with that.
Okay.
So they'll just have to keep pushing, like decline.
Until such time as they
Unless
can
they
switch their
change their
availability
red.
status to do not disturb.
Yeah, perfect. Huh.
Hmm.
You almost have to go back and forth doing that, hey? Because that'll be a lot of, like, visually, I think it'll be like a little bit overwhelming at the beginning to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a bit of a process, but it is because you're also not using a phone versus having an Apple
Totally.
computer, right?
Yeah. Would you suggest, Ethan, that they each time they're on a call that they push to do not disturb, like just get in the habit of going to that green button and putting it on do not disturb until they get off the phone and then the next call comes in? Because there aren't more than one line.
If they know it's going to be a long call, then yes.
Okay.
If it's something that's going to be immediately transferred, I wouldn't worry about it as much.
Right, because then you can just manage. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And there's enough of a tree now too that a lot of people will just transfer automatically
That's very true.
to other departments. So
Right.
Yeah, so the whole goal of the tree is to help mitigate the amount of calls that are going through to reception. So it can help with the amount of times that they actually have to answer the calls. But in the event that it does get busy, things like that, there are ways to have that limited even further.
Right. Yeah, I forget about the tree. That'll definitely change the volume. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Well, that
Any
was
other
my
questions for me?
I don't think so.
So that help further clarify what's to be expected for receptions going forward?
Just the email question, but I can take that on and maybe check with management and see what they say about that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, so just keep updated on that side of things, how you want them to be input in fine detail. Once you have that final process in place, let me know and I can certainly make those changes to accommodate what you guys are asking. So,
okay. Is there a way to just disable the email function? Or
yeah,
just
there are options to turn that off. That's not a problem. So,
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just have to figure that out hopefully soon.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ethan.
All right. Thank you for your time, guys. So I will have this link up later on. And Charlene, I haven't forgot about that other one, but I will provide that to you as well if you do need that from the crisis room training that I did.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll send both of these links.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.